wonder if TikTok will load. I don't see TikTok either. Like TikTok's not loading. What's up, guys? Welcome back. Sorry about that. Tell me your favorite Halloween candy. I want to know what your favorite. Mine is the flavored Tootsie Rolls, like the vanilla ones.
Are you a sociopath?
What's wrong with flavored Tootsie Rolls?
Nothing if you're a sociopath.
No, those are unbelievable. What are you talking about?
No. Absolutely not.
How are those not like the greatest candy of all time?
I'm saying you guys got issues. Someone's saying Smarties.
Jen eats rocks. You tell me this isn't the best.
No.
These right here, these Tootsie Fruit Chews. The vanilla ones are unbelievable. Back me up.
Those are like the ones that like get left over.
At your house, because you ate all the. What are you like black licorice? That's Jen's.
No. I like Reese's Pieces. I like Reese's Pieces, Snickers.
Reese's Pieces are the worst. Reese's anything of all the Reese's things. Reese's Pieces are the worst.
You're high. Well, that's not an insult, I guess.
But when I am, Tootsie Fruit Chews are my go-to.
That's gross.
Yeah. Necco wafers. My mom used to have Neccos in her purse all the time because like none of the kids would steal them. Do you know what Neccos are?
Yeah, I do. Like my stepmom, she buys Necco wafers out for gingerbread houses for Christmas. She uses those for like the roof.
Yeah, that's what they should be used for, like decorative candy. But my mom would have a pack of Neccos all the time. And nobody, I remember going to the doctor sometimes. She never gave us candy, but like sometimes when I go to the doctor, I could get like a Necco, and that was like my treat. Just horrific. All right, let's keep going with Scott Besson. Actually, that's basically the end.
Deal with China, it is made public that our soybean farmers will feel very good about what's going on both for this season and the coming seasons for several.
Yeah, nothing there. So nothing from Scott Besant. No good answers from any of them. We got, an hour left? It's a good time to remind you guys as you're rolling in. I'll refresh the chat. We do have our gift goal. If you can help us knock that out, that'd be great. Danielle said, I sent the video to your Facebook Messenger. I'll check that out, Danielle. I don't have Facebook logged into my computer, so I'll have to check that on my phone later, and then I'll bring it over. FOD said, tariffs, give your money to Trump. You're welcome, Larry. We might have lost Larry. I'm sure Larry will come back. I'm sure he'll be here. Back to the outline. All right. Want to talk about Trump in Japan, maybe? Trump, let's do this. I actually want to do... Right. So this one. Yeah, this was from German Mom in
when something so shocking happened.
Excuse me, sent this in Discord into the current stories, and I wanted to cover it because I haven't covered this. This is I think this was maybe Midas Touch.
Hey everybody, it's Allison Gill.
Sorry, real quick. Yeah, it was Midas Touch. But what they're going to cover here is the $130 million donor paying for the military salaries. You remember that Trump like anonymously announced that the military would be paid by an anonymous donor, which is a crazy thing. Like, isn't it wild how this guy just has $130 million lying around to bail us out, but like we can't tax them? He's cool. He's got all this money. He could give it to the government. He gives it to the government, and this is cool, but we certainly can't tax that person.
You'll notice I'm not in my regular studio. I apologize for that. I'm on vacation. There wasn't going to be an episode of The Breakdown this week because of that vacation, but this news is too important, so I wanted to jump on and tell you about it. The anonymous donor who made the $130 million payment to Donald Trump to give to the military is connected to Jeffrey Epstein. This is The Breakdown. Hey, everybody. Welcome to The Breakdown. I'm Allison Gill. Let me show you how all of this unfolded for me in the last day. By Saturday morning, we all knew.
See you, Amy. Thanks for being here.
because we'd heard from Trump himself that some anonymous, wonderful, wealthy benefactor had donated $130 million to help pay the military during the government shutdown. Something, by the way, that Mike Johnson can do and should do, because that's the legal way to pay the troops during a shutdown, is to have it go through Congress because they control the purse strings. But Mike Johnson doesn't want to come back to work right now. So that's interesting, because then he'd have to swear in Adelita Grajova and they'd have 218 signatures on the discharge petition to release the Epstein files. So my first thought was, maybe this anonymous donor is tied to Epstein somehow, prompting him to help pay the troops so that Mike Johnson didn't have to come back to work and do it the proper way. It seemed plausible.
So getting $100 per person? Is that for real? I didn't know that.
That rich men associated with Epstein might do anything to help prevent Mike Johnson from coming back to work. But then I was like, no, surely not. No, that's so transparently stupid, even for this administration. But never underestimate the idiocy of weak and desperate men. Sure enough, Saturday morning, the New York Times reported that it's Timothy Mellon, heir to the Mellon banking fortune, that had made the $130 million gift to our government. And that's when alarm bells started going off in my head. Why? Because just 11 days ago, an Epstein survivor, who's going by Jane Doe to maintain her anonymity, filed a lawsuit against Bank of America and the Bank of New York Mellon, alleging they knowingly provided financial services enabling Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking ring.
It's important to remember that the people who are funding, the billionaires who are funding Donald Trump and who got him elected and who are allowing him to manipulate them, I think this is Trump's leverage. I actually I've changed my theory on this. Obviously, Trump is in the files. We can't say whether or not there's going to be anything that incriminates Trump as far as like abusing children. We know of at least one account. However, this would be unbelievable leverage for Trump to bilk these people for millions of dollars, billions of dollars. If they're on there and the banks, it looks like, were aware of what Epstein was doing and they continued to still work with him because it was profitable, those people would be really incentivized not to say anything. And this is a cash cow for Trump. So the longer he can keep this going, like, let's just say that Trump isn't implicated in the files. Let's say that it's not about like protecting him from accusations. What would be another reason? Because Republicans, if you want to believe that, that's fine. I actually think that that's relatively sensible. Then what other reason would we have for them not releasing the files? Perhaps it's this, because we also know every Democrat's going to vote for it. I heard new reporting this morning that said that now there are at least 40 Republicans who will vote to release the files. Like, it's a done deal. It's not like they just need 218. They're saying that this is going to, like, there's plenty of votes. Even if you don't bring back Grivaldi, they think that they have the votes. So without all of this, they have the votes. So why then would Republicans continue to not release these files? Even though the government's shut down, they can still release the files. Now, Mike Johnson keeps telling us that James Comer's on it, that they're investigating it. And James Comer this morning comes out with a new investigation. Has absolutely nothing to do with the Epstein files. It's very clear, and we'll get to that today or tomorrow, that James Comer's not focused on the Epstein files. So why are the Republicans, and this one is partisan, sorry, the Republicans are covering it up currently. Why are they doing it? This makes sense.
By the way, the Bank of New York is no longer called the Bank of New York Mellon. They got rid of the Mellon about a year ago. They dropped it from their name. In an effort to rebrand, they said they wanted to simplify their image. Or maybe they wanted to associate with the name Mellon for some reason. Anyway, I digress. I searched the New York Times article for any mention of this, of the suit against Bank of New York Mellon in connection with the Epstein sex trafficking ring. And there's nothing in there about it. Now, Reuters reported on October 15th, a woman who says she was abused by the late financier and sex offender Jeffrey Epstein sued Bank of America and the Bank of New York Mellon on Wednesday, alleging the banks knowingly provided financial services that enabled his sex trafficking operation for years. The lawsuit against BNY said the bank gave a line of credit to MC2, a modeling agency that the lawsuit said Epstein and French model scout Jean-Luc Brunet.
Hopium, Larry, be good faith. Hopium for what? I just want the files fucking released. You don't? You don't want them released, Larry? You want them to stay hidden? Dude, you're a mess, man. I'm trying to be nice to you today. I'm trying to like have a conversation with you today, Larry. But like, you're a mess. This isn't a hopium. Like, bro, why don't we deserve to know this, Larry? Why are you so comfortable with your government just like not telling us this? The people you voted for. Why are you even talking about cope and hopium? This is silly. This is a weird response from you. These are powerful people covering up a sex predator, and you're like, oh, Democrats. Democrats? Come on, man.
Now used to traffic
My
victims.
best Joe Biden. Come on, man.
In total, Bank of New York Mellon processed $378 million in payments to women trafficked by Epstein. Brunel was arrested in December of 2020 and was, found dead in his jail cell in 2022. That's according to Parisian prosecutors. Now, Representative Jamie Raskin also issued a statement about this lawsuit. Quote, new lawsuits against Bank of America and BNY Mellon allege their systematic failure to report suspicious activity around Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking operation, causing massive harm to victims. A week before these filings, we demanded this very information.
No, Spencer, there's lots of people on both sides of the list, but only one side won't fucking release it. Jesus Christ. Here, Spence, Republicans won't release the files. Democrats are asking to release the files. Trump says if you vote to release the files, he will view it as a hostile act. I don't know who's in the files. I know some of the people that are, and some of them are Democrats, like Bill Clinton. Some of them are Republicans. A lot of them have donated to Republicans and Democrats. But Republicans, not you, not the voters, the people that you sent to Congress are not releasing the files. Some of them, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massey, and I believe Nancy Mace, have said, we want to release the files. We'd like to vote on this, please, Mike Johnson. And Mike Johnson said, no, we're not going to vote on this. We're going to cancel, or we. And so he just sent everybody home. This is before the government shutdown. Before the government shut down, they went home early to not release these files. They are telling you, Donald Trump has told you, do not release these files. If you vote to release these files, we will primary you. You have to go out of your way and lie to yourself. You got to look in the mirror and be like, dude, we're not doing reality today, to blame anybody but the Republicans for the fact that we don't have these fucking files. You can go back 3 or 4 years. You could talk about Joe Biden all you want. But right now, every Democrat says release them. Everyone. Not a single Democrat has said no. It's 100% of the Democrats and about 5% of Republicans. And the other 95% of Republicans are like, we're not going to release them. We're just not going to do it. You don't get to play both sides on this one right now. Right now, Democrats have agreed. Republicans say no. It doesn't, you can't what about to Joe Biden. You can't what about to when Democrats were in charge. Doesn't matter. They say they'll release it now. Republicans say no. You would have a better argument if Republicans were like, release the Epstein files, and they brought up a vote. Did you notice that Republicans never brought up a vote? Why wasn't there a vote? Why didn't you guys had the House for the last 2 years? Why not a vote when Biden was in office? When you guys had control of the House, why not bring up a vote for the Epstein files? It has been you guys who won't vote on this. So I'm not going to hear it from you today. And if you honestly, Spencer, are the kind of person who can look at reality and still say it's the Democrats' fault, like, yeah, I think like you're exactly who Trump wants. You're just somebody who can like look at reality and change it in your mind. Like, I don't want to believe that. I'll believe something else instead.
Information asking why banks for years processed $1.5 billion in Epstein-linked transactions without flagging them and filing reports that are required by law. We stand with survivors in exposing the truth about the enablers and co-conspirators of this decades-long international human trafficking ring. So it's also interesting that
4,000 to 6,000 for anyone on social media to talk good about Dems and bad about Trump, raking it in. Are you? I fucking wish, Dwayne. Can you send me the link for that? I'm already doing it, so I might as well get paid. Can you get me the link, Dwayne?
Donald Trump mentioned multiple times that the donor didn't want to be identified. This is from the BBC.
All right, Spencer, you're not a Trump supporter. That's fine. But you're playing both sides right now. You're doing the both sides thing. Why? Like right now is the time when you can point at Republicans. Why can't you do it? I don't care if you voted for Trump. Who is causing the files not to be released? It's Republicans and it's Donald Trump. I don't care if you've never voted. I don't care who you are. Like, it doesn't matter. You're trying to play both sides. You're sitting on the fence. This is one of those times where there is no both sides. We talked about the government shutdown. Both sides. That's fair. I've been completely fair on that. But right now, when we're talking about the Epstein files, this is clearly Donald Trump instructing Republican cucks not to vote for it, and everybody who is completely cucked to him is not voting for it, and a handful of Republicans are like, okay, I'll vote for it. That's just the truth. You can't. It's hard to argue that. That's all I'm asking for, Spencer. Don't just sit on the fence post the whole time. You're not smarter to sit when you sit on the fence. This one's an easy one. This one is balls and strikes. It's Republicans.
Trump had previewed the donation on Thursday, while also
Gary Johnson ran in 2016. I voted for Gary Johnson. All right, so you haven't voted since 2016? Gary Johnson ran last in 2016, and I also voted for him. And then it was I forget her name that ran, and then it was Chase Oliver. What was the lady's? Jan? Was it Jan something? Why can't I remember her name? That ran for the Libertarian ticket.
Declining to identify the donor, saying, quote, he doesn't really want the recognition. Before leaving for Asia on Saturday, Trump told reporters at the White House that the donor is a great gentleman, a patron, a patriot, and a wonderful man.
Spencer, you saying both sides for this issue is you on the fence. I'm not talking about your personal feelings, Spencer. I'm talking about reality. Reality right now with this instance, Republicans are blocking it. Spencer, just say, Joe Jorgensen, thank you. Spencer, just tell me which party is blocking the release of the Epstein files. If I'm not understanding you, then just say in your next comment, tell me which party is blocking the Epstein files. And then I'll apologize if I'm wrong. But it sounds an awful lot like you're saying that they're like it's both sides here.
Who doesn't want publicity. Quote, he prefers his name not be mentioned, which is pretty unusual in the world I come from. In the world of politics, you want your name mentioned. Boy, you're talking about his anonymity an awful lot.
Actually, Matt, I called the 95% of people who are not voting to release the Epstein files cucks, and I do believe they are cucks to Trump. Make an argument that they're not. Go ahead. Show me one of them that ever stands up against Trump. The right thing to do is release these files, and they're not doing it because Trump told them not to. That's pretty cucky. I don't know. I'm sorry if you're offended by that.
Mr. Trump. Trump also kept pushing the point that this was to help pay the military. But $130 million amounts to about $100 per service member. One-time payment. Hardly enough to keep Mike Johnson at home for very long. So keep your eye on Ghislaine Maxwell and the Wall Street Journal, excuse me. See if any more Epstein stories leak. And whether Trump will pardon her for her silence amid these hundreds of millions of dollars in donations in the name of the military, or his ballroom, which is, I'm pretty sure, nothing more than a slush fund laundromat for bribes, but I digress. So while I'm here.
Oh, cuck's not a slur, by the way, Matt. I see what you're saying. I appreciate that. I don't consider cuck a slur. You can call me that. I don't. If you call me like a silly little bitch, you're allowed to do that. Slurs are based on like somebody's inherent qualities. Generally, they're like their nationality, their race, their gender, their sexuality. Being a cuck is a choice. It's not a slur.
I wanted to mention something else pretty big that happened this week, and it has to do with Volume 2 of Jack Smith's final report. That's the one that has to do with the classified documents. This week, Jack Smith went to paper. That means he wrote a letter. He wrote a letter to Jim Jordan and Chuck Grassley, not only about the Republicans' mischaracterizations of his work, but about Volume 2, which Judge Cannon is still blocking from being released. We've never seen it. It's never been released to the public. We've seen Volume 1. So now Jack Smith himself has brought up Volume 2 in this letter in response to being asked to testify behind closed doors.
Now ask yourself, why is a judge hiding Volume 2? Why is it taking Jack Smith? Like, I think the Trump administration, if they wanted to cover this up, I think they fucked up. Going after Jack Smith is going to allow for discovery. And now Jack Smith, who is a brilliant prosecutor, and I mean brilliant, 20 steps ahead of Donald Trump at all times. All of a sudden he breaks his silence. He's like, all right, fine. If you want, like, now that you want to go after me, I get discovery. So let's talk about all the things that you guys have covered up.
This is pretty massive news. As you may know, my very first podcast, a long time ago, 2017, 8 years ago, which a podcast, by the way, that was investigated by the first Trump administration. That very first podcast was about the Mueller investigation. It was called Mueller, She Wrote.
Hey, Matt said I can't define slur. Want to guess what community Matt comes from? Everybody in the chat, tell me what community Matt comes from. Johnny said, here are makeup contributions. I've been fighting leukemia, been in hospital since early October. Keep up the good fight. Much love to you and the whole RTP family. You, Jen, Mods, no pity expected. Johnny, we love you, brother. I've been thinking about you, and keep battling. I appreciate the donation, dude, but you don't need to do that. Just show up and be here.
And that's how I first met former Deputy Director of the FBI, Andy McCabe. It was back in 2019 when something so shocking happened, or at least seemingly shocking, that he agreed to appear on the podcast. And you'll laugh at us, but the shocking thing was that Robert Mueller went to paper. He wrote a letter to Bill Barr. He was mad that Bill Barr had mischaracterized his findings, saying that, Mueller exonerated Donald Trump, when in fact the opposite was true. It did not exonerate Trump, and the report said that. So he wrote a letter to Bill Barr about it. I think he made a couple of phone calls too. And as much as we joke about strongly worded letters, back then, and in general, it's unheard of for a Department of Justice employee to put on the record, on paper, that they disagree with the Attorney General. It was so unusual. Andy McCabe made an appearance on the Mueller She Wrote podcast in 2019. It's called Mueller Goes to Paper. It's out there. You can listen to it if you want. So years later, I would end up posting.
I appreciate it. Vince said, I think both sides are blocking the files. At first, it was the Dem-Tard, but now it's the right side. Why is it right side and Dem-Tard? That's weird. No, it's not. There's no instance that we know of, that I know of, where this was brought to the floor to release the Epstein files and Democrats blocked it. This is the only time it's been brought up for a vote or attempted to be brought up for a vote, and Republicans are blocking it. So it's a hypothetical. Just because it hasn't been released before doesn't mean that it was blocked before. And by the way, Republicans held control of the House as well, and they didn't bring it up. And Donald Trump was president when this all happened, and he didn't bring it up. So you can't play that game. If you're going to say Biden didn't release it, well, either did Trump. But that's not the argument. The argument is who is blocking it. There was not a great demand to release the files from Congress. And a push for Biden to release the files from Congress. The same with the first Trump administration. But this Trump administration ran on, we're going to release the files, and then it was brought up for a vote. They're trying to vote on it, and Trump said, don't vote on it. We're not releasing these files. Anybody who votes on it, you're in trouble. It's the only time it's happened. It's one. I appreciate it, Vin, and I like that you're trying to do both sides, but also you said Dem-Tard and right side. Do you see your bias there a little bit? Maybe? Just a little bit?
A podcast with Andrew McCabe about the next special counsel investigation into Trump by Jack Smith.
I just explained it, Steve.
The podcast was called Jack. Jack Smith was appointed in November of 2022. He indicted Donald Trump in 2023 in two cases. One for Trump's attempt and his role in overturning the 2020 election results, and one case for his unlawful retention of classified documents under the Espionage Act and the subsequent obstruction of justice in that investigation. And Jack Smith had two trials on the calendar ready to go well before the election. The January 6th trial was scheduled for March 2024.
Remember that one time the guy that you chose as president was like on trial and he had like all these criminal cases and you guys voted for him anyways without knowing if he committed those crimes? You just voted for him. And our justice system is so fucking corrupt and so biased towards rich people and people in power that Donald Trump was able to just push these out all the way until he won. He never, like, if you or I had been accused of what he did, we would have a court case immediately. Look how quickly Letitia James is having a case. She had to appear before a court. Watch how quickly Jack Smith will have a case appear. Look at all these people. Look how quick it happens, unless you're Donald Trump. Unless you're a billionaire, whiny little bitch that can just extend this out. He never had to face justice because in America, we don't have an equal justice department. You guys complained that Donald Trump was charged with something. He didn't even go to court. He didn't even have to go to court in any of these cases because he had his own hand-picked judge, somebody he chose off of a list from his conservative donors. Somehow that judge got assigned to his case, and she just pushed it off, and he never had to go to trial. This was done in what, 2022? Well, how many of us could push off a trial for 2 years? None of us. Only if you're rich and powerful.
The classified documents trial was scheduled to go in May of 2024. But as we all know, Trump filed a motion to dismiss both of the cases, especially the January 6th case. He filed to dismiss that case.
An authoritarian dictatorship wouldn't use, right? They wouldn't hire an independent prosecutor. You wouldn't have had people like Merrick Garland recusing themselves. Joe Biden would have probably ended the prosecutions into his family, right? The investigations. You guys, it's crazy the whataboutisms you guys will play.
On immunity grounds, presidents have absolute immunity. It's unreviewable. And the Supreme Court, the oligarchs on the Supreme Court, not only took the case, they sat on it and delayed it for as long as they possibly could. They scheduled oral arguments for the very last possible day they could have oral arguments in that term. They announced their ruling on the very last possible day you can announce a ruling in 2024. It was July. All told, about a 7-month delay.
Guys, that just happened that way. It just happened that every time they extended the deadline until the last possible day. It just happened that every time they made a ruling on the last possible day. It definitely wasn't corruption. It definitely wasn't them trying to give Trump a break. It was just a happenstance.
Just to grant him immunity. And by the way, with the caveat that there would be another year or two of litigation over exactly what parts of the case were subject to presidential immunity that would be decided by the Supreme Court themselves. So not only does the president have immunity, but we get to decide after multiple back and forth filings whether what you think is not immune is immune or not. And we get to decide that. And that's going to take another year or two. Guaranteeing, all of that guaranteed that case was not going to happen before the 2024 election.
Remember when Trump gave his State of the Union and he went to Justice Roberts and he said, "Thank you for what you did for me. I'll never forget it." If there was anything even remotely close to that had ever happened with Joe Biden or Barack Obama, it would be the only thing that you guys ever talked about. You guys are willing to believe corruption without evidence, and then corruption with evidence on your side, it's not corruption. What else did Trump mean by that? The Supreme Court gave him a life vest. They said that when you're president, you can't commit crimes. Are you happy to live in a country where the president can't commit crimes? Are you happy about that? Well, he has 34 felony convictions, Ryan. So those. Defamation, guilty of that. Sexual abuse, civilly liable for that. And then these were going to be crimes as well. This would have been willful retention of classified documents. Obstruction of justice, I think, was part of this. Just never even got to trial. They just extended it until he won. And then the Supreme Court's like, the president's allowed to commit crimes. All of these crimes, by the way, were committed while he wasn't president, which is why they didn't cancel these trials. Right? That ruling should have ended this if this was covered by immunity, but this trial wasn't covered by immunity because it all happened after he left office, right? Except for the January 6th. So this is the classified documents. The January 6th one happened while he was in office. But now we're talking about like treason and seditious conspiracy, which, by the way, multiple people that were in communication with Trump's team were found guilty of seditious conspiracy. So what happened on January 6th was conspiracy. It was sedition. They were charged and found guilty of seditious conspiracy. It was a riot. It was an attempt to overthrow the government, and it was proven in the courts. And you all just pretended that it wasn't. No, just peaceful, mostly peaceful, day of love. What about BLM? That's what you all say. What about the summer of love? Yeah, a lot of people went to jail during the BLM riots. A lot, including Proud Boys who burnt down a church and tried to frame Antifa. Remember that? Or Oath Keepers. Oath Keepers burned down a church trying to frame Antifa. Do you guys remember that? Oh, of course you remember that. Of course you remember that. They went to jail too. Lots of people went to jail. But if they're on the right, they don't go to jail. It's the only time in my life that somebody has been convicted, I think, of seditious conspiracy. And they did it for Donald Trump. And you guys are like, no big deal. January 6th was no big deal.
Now, stunningly, in the documents case, Judge Cannon, a Trump ally and appointee, as we know, created a secret docket using email and helped Trump stall that case at every single turn. Now, ultimately, she granted Trump's motion to dismiss.
January 6th was an inside job, guys. The Oath Keepers, the Proud Boys, they were all actually inside lefties. That's what they were. And then Boogaloo Boys. Sorry, I said Oath Keepers. You're right, Jess. It was Boogaloo Boys that burned down the church. Did you guys understand how stupid your arguments are? It was an inside job. Okay, so then why did Trump pardon them? How come, if it's an inside job, why'd Trump pardon them? Shouldn't they still be in jail? No? Huh. That's weird. Are you guys really trying to tell me that the Proud Boys are like FBI plants? Did the Oath Keepers are FBI plants? 300 feds, dumbass. God. Dude, you guys, I don't understand how this happens to you. Watch. We'll abandon this right now. We'll just play fucking fact checkers with you guys today. Why were the 3,000 FBI agents dispatched? Why were they there? Who said that? Who said 300 feds? Who was it? Why were they there? Want to explain it? What were they there for? Crowd control. They were sent there by who? Who sent them there? Come on, guys. You got to answer my questions. No talking points. I need you to ask the questions or answer the questions. Who sent those 300 federal agents? Because there was an order given. Who sent them? No, not to instigate the riot, because they came after the riot had started, right? Those 300. We have their names. We know who sent them there. Who sent them? I'll give you a fucking hint. Do you know who's in charge of the FBI? The Department of Justice. Who's in charge of the Department of Justice? Who picks the leaders of the Department of Justice? President. Who was president? Trump. So Trump's own FBI, you're telling me, sent in the FBI after everything had already started, and those FBI agents were there to try and control the crowds and get them to stop. And that's the conspiracy you've decided to believe. This is why we say cuck. This is why we say cult. This is why, like, all of this stuff is easily verifiable. Here's question number 2. Where's the fucking trial? You guys have the House, you have the Senate, you have the FBI. Where are these names? Where's the trial? Where's the prosecution? Why aren't these three? Why did Kash Patel say that those 300 FBI agents were there? Is Kash Patel lying? Is Kash Patel part of the deep state too? Because Kash Patel said specifically that those agents were sent there by the administration for control. Kash Patel has confirmed that those 300 agents weren't part of a conspiracy. So Kash Patel's lying too. Pam Bondi's lying too. Everybody's in on it. You guys are just the only ones who know. You and the dumb shit podcasters that you watch, you guys know. But this administration is covering up their own infiltration to take down Trump. And then Kash Patel wrote a children's book about how Trump is king, but he's going to, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. Go look it up. There's nobody in this administration who thinks those 300 agents were there to instigate. Kash Patel has confirmed this. Go look it up.
Missed the charges on the grounds that Jack Smith.
All right, fuck it. Kash Patel, 300 agents. Let's pull it up. I'm going to have to find a smaller clip. Let's see. Why is everything pulling up on sports betting? Let me try it on Twitter. Well, as a reminder, guys, we are crowdfunded. We do need to knock out that goal before the end of the live. We got about an hour-ish left of the live, and we'll be done. So if you can help us knock out that goal, that'd be greatly appreciated. We do Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, Super Chats, all those things, and I'll read anything you send. So send those over while we look this up. God, just give me everything about this FBI sting. Oh, maybe if I add Jan 6, that'll bring it up. Jen, can you look for it too? You're always better at finding this shit than me. All right. This might give it to me.
What am I looking for? Sorry, I was multitasking.
You're good. I actually found it. So you're good.
Okay.
The FBI, this is from Fox News. FBI responded on Saturday to report that 274 plainclothes agents were at the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021, clarifying the role of Bureau personnel while still blasting former director Chris Wray. While the agents were on hand, they were sent in after the riot had begun to try to control the unruly crowd. Officials told Fox News Digital. That is not the proper role of FBI agents, and Wray was not forthcoming about what had happened when he testified numerous times on Capitol Hill, said Kash Patel. Oh. He shouldn't have even done that. He shouldn't have even sent, and that's true. FBI agents are not supposed to be used as crowd control. And Chris Wray did probably overstepped his boundaries because Trump wouldn't call him the National Guard. But here is Kash Patel confirming agents were sent in to a crowd control mission after the riot was declared by Metro Police, something that goes against FBI standards. This was the failure of a corrupt leadership that lied to Congress and to the American people about what really happened. He added, thanks to agents coming forward, we are now uncovering the truth. We are fully committed to transparency and justice, and accountability continues with this FBI. There's no indication any FBI agents were involved in any events related to Trump's speech on the morning of January 6th at the Ellipse, an FBI official told Fox News Digital, adding that Wray should have disclosed the agents were there when he was asked by congressional leaders. Any questions? The problem that you have is that Trump is dumb. It was just revealed that the FBI had secret in place against all rules, regulations, protocols, and standards 274 FBI agents into the crowd just prior to and during the January 6th hoax. Even Donald Trump can't get it right. See this? Whoops. Is it not letting me? Did we freeze? I hope we didn't freeze. The problem is you guys listen to Trump. Trump can't even get it right. He said prior to and during the January 6th hoax. Kash Patel says the opposite. So who do you guys believe? Oh, well, I've already chosen to believe this and Ray Epps, and so I'm just going to keep believing it even when Kash Patel says I'm wrong. Pelosi didn't refuse the National Guard. Are we going to do this all day? We're going to do this all day? Explain to me, watch this. Who can call in the National Guard? Let's just do this. Can the Speaker of the House refuse the National Guard? Into D.C. Let's just see. What does it say? Not going to give me an AI response. Let's go to the Brennan Center for Justice. The National Guard plays a crucial role in the United States, both in its capacity as a reserve component of the armed forces and as a versatile asset that state governors can call in times of civil unrest, natural disaster, or even the coronavirus. Section 502 of Title 32 of the U.S. Code is the longstanding authority that facilitates a range of important domestic National Guard missions. In the summer of 2020, however, the Trump administration made unprecedented use of this law to bring unfederalized out-of-state Guard troops into Washington, D.C. to respond to protests. Oh, shit. You're telling me Donald Trump was able to send in the National Guard during the protests of George Floyd? So Donald Trump had the capability? Did Nancy Pelosi approve that? When Donald Trump sent in the National Guard just barely, did he need approval from Mike Johnson to do that? Oh, he didn't? Oh, okay. Section 502 is the primary statute that authorizes the National Guard to operate in Title 32 status, one of the three different duty statuses in which members of the Guard may serve at any given moment. In state active duty status, Guard personnel carry out state-defined mission, yada, yada, yada. Do you see anything here that says the Speaker of the House can do it? I can show you this. Here's a letter to Muriel Bowser. Is this the June 9th? Oh, that's June 9th. Let's look at this. Let's look at Christopher Miller. I'm going to do this a lot. I think it's January 4th. This is a letter from Christopher Miller, who was the acting secretary of the Army, or I think he was actually acting secretary of defense, but he was this, Ryan McCarthy was the acting secretary of the Army. Here's a letter to Muriel Bowser on January 4th. This memorandum responds to your January 4th memorandum regarding the District of Columbia request for DC National Guard and support to response for planned demonstrations from January 5th to 6th. So this is a response from earlier in that day when Muriel Bowser requested the National Guard to be at the Capitol on January 5th and January 6th. She said, I would like National Guard ready and to help us because there's planned demonstrations and we're hearing rumors that there could be riots. What Christopher Miller says is you, Muriel Bowser, are authorized to approve the requested support subject to my guidance below. So thank you for asking. You can authorize this support if the following guidelines are met. Now, this guideline obviously should have something about Nancy Pelosi, right? Because clearly Nancy Pelosi can tell Donald Trump no to the National Guard, right? Of course, our Constitution allows the Speaker of the House to tell the Commander-in-Chief no, right? When it comes to commanding the troops. Good luck finding that. Without my subsequent approval or subsequent personal authorization, here's what they're not allowed to do, Muriel Bowser. They can't be issued weapons, ammunition, bayonets, batons, ballistic protection equipment such as helmets and body armor unless I say so. They can't interact physically with protesters except when necessary in self-defense or defense of others unless I say so. They can't employ riot control agents unless I say so. They can't share equipment with law enforcement agencies unless I say so. They can't use intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance assets to conduct ISR incident awareness or assessment activities unless I say so. They can't employ helicopters unless I say so. They can't do searches, seizures, arrests, or similar direct law enforcement activity unless I say so. And they can't seek support from any non-DC National Guard units unless I say so. Then he says, at all times, and here's where you should pay attention, at all times, the National Guard will remain under the operational and administrative command and control of the commanding general of the DC National Guard, who reports to the Secretary of Defense through the Secretary of Army. The Secretary of Defense is who? Christopher Miller. Who is the Secretary of the Army? Ryan McCarthy. And who is their boss? Donald Trump. So who's the only person that can override Christopher Miller or Ryan McCarthy? Not Nancy Pelosi. Only Donald Trump can override what they say. And Donald Trump didn't do it. He refused to do it. Nancy Pelosi has no ability to tell Donald Trump no. And if you think that you're right about that, just show me in the Constitution where the National Guard can be denied by the Speaker of the House. Now, what Nancy Pelosi did have control over, at least in some capacity, is the Capitol Police. But she just has oversight. She doesn't have direct control, but the House has oversight. So they can kind of keep their eye on and make sure the Capitol Police are doing their job. That's what she said in that video clip where she says, "I should have done more. I should have been more prepared." She's talking about Capitol Police. It literally takes a 6th grade education and a little bit of time to read something to find out that Donald Trump is the reason we didn't have the National Guard called in. Mike Pence, who was second in line, by the way, Nancy Pelosi called Mike Pence and said, can you get him to call in the National Guard? And Mike Pence said, he's not answering my calls. Mike Pence was calling Kevin McCarthy, blowing him up like, please get the president on the phone. Or not McCarthy. It was, who was his chief of staff? What was the other guy's name? The other guy, his chief of staff. And he said, I can't, he doesn't want to talk to you. So Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi are calling Mike Pence saying, please, can you talk to your boy and get the National Guard in here? Mike Pence is above Nancy Pelosi. The only way Nancy Pelosi would have been able to have control of the National Guard is if Trump was incapacitated and Mike Pence was incapacitated. Because if Trump was incapacitated, that would have fallen to Mike Pence, who was calling and begging to call in the National Guard. But it doesn't get to Nancy Pelosi until third. Mark Meadows, thank you. She's third in line. When I tell you that everything you believe is a fucking lie, I mean it. Everything you guys believe is a fucking lie. Why? Because they fucking lie. Why do they lie? Because it's easy. Because you guys eat it up. So you don't recognize a power grab like this. You don't recognize. It is absolutely baffling to me that millions of Americans don't know that MAGA tried to overthrow the government. And they're stupid and they fucking suck. And so because they were stupid and they fucking suck, they couldn't do it. Because, again, they're stupid. So it didn't fucking work, but they actually had a plan, and that's why what's the Proud Boys guy's name? Enrique Tarrio. The reason that Enrique Tarrio was convicted of seditious conspiracy is because they found his plan and he wrote it down, and other people had his plan too, and they did his plan, and he was outside of the city on the phone cheering on his boys. We got this, boys. We're gonna complete our plan. He literally had a plan to take over each government building and basically turn this into a state of martial law where Donald Trump didn't have to accept the election. That was their plan. Delay this vote, then they'll bring in alternate sets of electors, then they'll pretend that those alternate sets of electors were the real sets of electors, and then Donald Trump would reverse the outcome of the election through these fake sets of electors. But it required Mike Pence to reject the legitimate slates of electors. And so the contingency plan was if Mike Pence rejected this, all hell would break loose, which is why Donald Trump, in the middle of this, tweeted out, Mike Pence is a coward. He failed us. He didn't do what he was supposed to do. And that's, you can watch in real time. People in the crowd go, Mike Pence fucked us. And then you saw the crowd attack the Capitol. They were already problems. But when you saw the mob really move, it was after Trump tweeted, hey, Mike Pence failed us. And they're like, let's go. And they started chanting, hang Mike Pence. That's why Trump didn't want this case to go to trial. And we never, as American people, we never got transparency on this. We never had the opportunity for Donald Trump and his team to stand in front of a court and defend their lack of action and their actions on that day. And you guys don't care about transparency. You're like, no. If we go to court, I might have to believe things about Trump that I don't want to believe. So I would rather have no justice. I don't want to know the truth. I just want to believe what Donald Trump says. And you left it at that. Pretty pathetic of any of you who still are buying that lie. This was an easy one.
Was not appointed properly.
All right, back to Jack Smith and the ties to Epstein and the Republicans hiding the Epstein files. Tanya said, happy Tuesday. Ty said, look up Jesse Mack Butler, another Brock Turner sweetheart deal for a child rapist in Oklahoma. All right, I'll look that up. That sucks. Jerry said, yeah, well, where was Obama on 9/11? That's a good point. That's a good point. Where was he?
And not funded properly, which nullified the charges. And after the election, Jack Smith filed his final reports to Merrick Garland for January 6th in the documents case, then resigned from the Department of Justice.
Thank you, Alyssa.
But not before saying he could bring these charges again in the future, because Trump's election as president would only pause the statute of limitations. It would hold it, because you can't indict a sitting president. You can't prosecute a sitting president. So that would pause the
Want to bet they pardon him on his way out if he leaves so that he doesn't have to face trial for this?
clock on the statute of limitations. Now, that idea has not been litigated in court yet. I doubt the Supreme Court would let you, but it could be litigated if Democrats win in 2028 and appoint an attorney general that would be willing to reanimate this case and litigate as to whether or not it could be brought again, because Trump's term as president paused the statute of limitations. Otherwise, the statute of limitations would be long expired. But the judge in the January 6th case, Judge Chutkin, didn't block the release of Volume 1.
We were joking, Pamela.
The January 6th report. So Merrick Garland released it. But Judge Cannon did block the release of Volume 2. And she continues to block it to this day.
Guys, the Obama thing was a joke. I don't remember. It's a quote. I don't even remember who said it, but somebody asked. I don't remember what commentator brought up. Where was Obama on 9/11? I think it was maybe the Good Liars. I think it was maybe one of their interviews where somebody's like, well, where was Obama on 9/11? I think that's what that was.
Though the cases are long over. So I've been worried about what would happen to Jack Smith's work, his files, and Volume 2 after Trump won.
Richard, tell me what I should search for that link. I'm watching your comments. Let me know, because you said, I'll show you Pelosi calling this guy a liar, admitting she just wanted to ruin Trump politically. That's all. Death be damned. Her plan was better. The chief begged her. I don't know what the fuck that means, but tell me where to find that clip, and I'll gladly show it.
Maybe Trump would sweep in and
it was
destroy all of it. Because I know that you will all remember Democrats in the Senate were asking for Volume 2 of the report when they were considering Kash Patel for FBI director, because he's in there. He's in that Volume 2 report, Volume 2 of that report.
I like it. Dems hid the Epstein files. Republicans are holding them, but your only outrageous X about Republicans doing it hypocritical. Democrats didn't hide it. I don't know what to tell you. Most the people in Congress didn't have access to the Epstein files. Right? I don't know if you know this. You can't just go and get access as a member of Congress. You have to vote to release them. Nobody has ever voted to release them. Anything you're accusing Democrats of, Republicans did too, because Republicans didn't try and force a vote on it either, and they could have. It's not hypocrisy. It's that both parties were doing the exact same thing, and now one party's not doing what the other party is doing. So they've been in lockstep doing absolutely fucking nothing about the Epstein files, and now one party is trying to get them released, and the other party isn't, and you care more about me and calling people, you care more about hypocrisy than you care about the truth. Why the fuck do you care? Even if that was true, why do you care? Why wouldn't you still tell even if that was true, why wouldn't you still tell the Republicans? If that was true, wouldn't Republicans look great if they released it? Again, another home run. Donald Trump can just release the Epstein files and be a hero. There's so many things Donald Trump could do to make sure that they win the next election and make sure that the American people who are wishy-washy on him side with him. Because people, most people that vote, they don't vote on big issues. It's like a vibes thing. And the vibe of Donald Trump is he's hiding something now. If he's threatening people. Biden didn't threaten anybody. Biden didn't say, don't release this or you're toast. Trump's the only one who's ever done that.
So we all kind of figured that
Danielle said, our next POTUS needs to end unlimited pardons. That'd be great. DJT said, invent fake conspiracies and ignore the real ones. Ain't that the truth?
hope of seeing Volume 2 was lost because the DOJ refused to hand it over for advice and consent on Kash Patel. I wondered if it even still existed. Maybe it had been destroyed. But this week, Jack Smith mentioned it in a letter. He went to paper in a letter to Jim Jordan and Chuck Grassley. Because, like I said, they asked him to appear before the committee behind closed doors.
This is such a great move by Jack Smith. This is really important. I know this video is kind of long, but Jack Smith's response was really important.
Usually means we'd like to interview you in private and then lie to the public about what you said. And Jack Smith knows that. So his attorneys wrote a letter saying, we'll testify in public on a couple of conditions. Here's the letter. We have received Chairman Jordan's October 14th, 2025 letter and are aware of Chairman Grassley's interest in testimony from our client, Jack Smith. Given the many mischaracterizations of Mr. Smith's investigation into President Trump's alleged mishandling of classified documents and role in attempting to overturn the results of the 2020 election, Mr. Smith respectfully requests the opportunity to testify in open hearings before the House and Senate Judiciary Committees. During the investigation of President Trump, Mr. Smith steadfastly adhered to established legal standards and Department of Justice guidelines, consistent with his approach throughout his career as a dedicated public servant. He is prepared to answer questions about the special counsel's investigation and prosecution, but requires assurance from the Department of Justice that he will not be punished for doing so. To that end, Mr. Smith needs guidance from the Department of Justice regarding federal grand jury secrecy requirements and authorization on the matters he may speak to regarding, among other things, Volume 2 of the final report of special counsel, which is not publicly available. In addition, to provide full and accurate answers to your questions, Mr. Smith requires access to the special counsel files, which he no longer has the ability to access. With the guidance and access described above, Mr. Smith is available to testify in an open hearing at your earliest convenience.
Yeah. I'll testify, he said. I need access to the files, and I want to do this publicly. I want full transparency. Do you want to bet if the Republicans are willing to give full transparency? I bet they're not, and I bet you'll defend it. By the way, Spencer, chill, dude. You've been here forever. The same people are here every day. And they don't, like, I'm the one that blocks people. People can only be blocked for slurs or if I get annoyed with them, and sometimes I mute them for a little while. But, like, we don't need to fight that fight, bud. You're welcome to be here. You're welcome to argue with everybody. You're not going to get blocked unless you break the rules. You're okay. But I love this from Jack Smith. And it goes to show just like how pathetic Republicans have become. Because when they call him and they're like, we're like, you're going to be investigated. He's like, great, that's great. I want to be investigated. This is terrific. In fact, why don't we do this publicly? Why don't I come in front of Congress and I'll answer all your questions? Let's do it publicly. I'm going to need access to the files to make sure that my recollection on some of this stuff is accurate. I want to show some of this stuff. Let's also talk about Volume 2, which for some reason is under seal. If you're going to say that I committed a crime, I'm open to it. Let's talk about it, but let's do it publicly. And the Republicans are going to say, no, we don't want to do it publicly. Why not? Why do you think all of your elected leaders don't want any of this stuff to happen publicly? Same. If Jack Smith's such a liar, if this is so easy, it should be real easy. We should all see it, right? Most transparent administration in history. Of course they'd bring up Jack Smith publicly, right? Want to bet they don't? Republicans, just give me a thumbs up. I only want to hear from Republicans or Republican adjacent people. No Democrats, nobody on the left. Thumbs up if you think Jack Smith should publicly testify. Thumbs down if you think it should be privately. I just want to see where you're at on this one, if you can. I know that we're adversaries and maybe you don't want to take part in a poll, but I want to know what you think about that. Jamar said, I'll do you one better. What about Biden on 9/11? That's a good question. Maybe Biden. Maybe it was Biden. Goldilocks said, neocons are uniparty on the Epstein files. I'm with the Freedom Caucus, and they think they should be released, and Trump's handling of them poor, but Biden and the Dems had 4 years to do this. No, you're wrong about the Freedom Caucus. Goldilocks. You're telling me Andy Biggs? That's my guy. Andy Biggs is my representative. The Freedom Caucus isn't asking for them to be released. Who? Didn't Thomas Massey get run out of the Freedom Caucus, by the way? Like, who? The Freedom Caucus members are, I think, like Jim Jordan, Andy Biggs. Let's pull up who's the members of the Chip Roy, Barry Moore, Ralph Norman, Andy Biggs, Byron Donalds, and Tom Tiffany. Jim Jordan. Here we go. member list: Andy Harris, Lauren Boebert, Ralph Norman, Joss Breachin, Ben Klein, Andrew Clyde, Scott Desjarlis, Russ Fulcher, Paul Gosar, Harriet Hageman, Clay Higgins, Barry Moore, Gary Palmer, Keith Self. Wasn't it? I don't remember if it was Clay Higgins or Chip Roy. I think it was Clay Higgins. When they tried to bring the vote, Clay Higgins ended the session. They had to force him to come back in because he wasn't allowed to end that session. He tried to cover it up. Jim Jordan, Chip Roy, Andy Biggs, Eric Burleson, Michael Cloud, Eli Crane, Byron Donalds, Brandon Gill, Morgan Griffith, Diana Harshbarger, Mary Miller, Andy Ogle, Scott Perry, Greg Stubbe, Tom Tiffany. As far as I know, the only people, and look, I guess Thomas Massey's not even part of there. The only people on that list I know, I think Lauren Boebert committed. I don't think anybody else on that list is committed to releasing the Epstein files. Yeah, nobody else on that list is yeah, so you're just wrong about that, Goldilocks. In the House Freedom Caucus, there's nothing freedom about them. They're a bunch of cucks. They just do whatever Donald Trump says. I'm represented by Andy Biggs. He's dog shit. All he ever talks about is Donald Trump and trans people. It's the only thing they care about.
Did you catch that? He wants to know if he can talk about Volume 2 in public.
Chill, chat, chill.
And he wants access to all of his old files, his work product.
Can they change Epstein files with all this time? Difficult, because there's multiple copies of it, right? Like different courts have them. Because he was tried in different places, it's not like the FBI has everything. The FBI, and there's photocopies of all this stuff. And so I think it would be difficult for them to go about this. But you're right. Like the longer this goes on, the more likely it is that they're hiding shit. But Republicans don't care. If this never comes out, Republicans will never care about this. It was an absolute lie that they cared about it from the start.
And like I said, for months, Andy and I were worried that Trump would come into the DOJ, destroy all that evidence against him, including Jack Smith's files.
No, Jim Jordan. No, sorry, Goldilocks. Or I'm just going to end this video, actually, because I'm breaking it up. We're going to talk about this. But like Jim Jordan says release the files, but Jim Jordan won't vote for it. Why won't he assign his name? Let's look at Jim Jordan Epstein files. Let's see what he had to say. Go to media. Let's see if I can. Is this one? That's a steel shot. Let's do discharge petition. Jim Jordan, as far as I know, just keeps telling us that they're being released and they've been released. That's what he keeps saying. He keeps saying that the oversight committee is going to get those out in due time. Jim Jordan also, like, he kind of has a history of covering up sexual assault. He also avoided his subpoena from the J6 committee, refused to go and do that. Let me find YouTube, see if I can find Jim Jordan. Can't find Jim McGovern. It's hard to find Jim Jordan. You got a clip in mind there, Goldilocks? I don't see any. I'm looking through here. I don't see anything about Jim Jordan. Trying to bring the Epstein files. We can look. You guys can see what I'm seeing, I guess. It's 17 minutes. Let's see.
So in the area where the president wants trust right now, big area right now, and he is, as the kids would say, big mad today about people pestering him about the
It wasn't me. He said the right's biggest crime is the murder of truth.
Jeffrey Epstein case and the case file. And he went off today and said basically,
I saw the post.
Yeah, he was not feeling the love, and he said that. We heard from his daughter-in-law, the former co-chairwoman of the Republican National Committee, more is coming. We're going to get more information out to people. We heard the Speaker of the House say more information we need to have more information. We need more transparency. No one has given the FBI and the Justice Department a harder time than you over the course of your career. You have been a thorn in their sides for a long time. What should happen here, and what do you think did happen here?
Well, first of all, I have confidence in the president and his team working. You know, you're right. We work with the Justice Department. The Judiciary Committee works with Justice Department all the time. Now, it's night and day compared to, I mean, night and day working with Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino versus Merrick Garland, Lisa Monaco, and Chris Wray. In fact, I think Kash, we sent him 7 subpoenas on the second day on the job, asking for information. We got the information. Go figure. So I have complete confidence in President Trump and his team. We've been working on this prior to this whole Epstein issue this last week and a half. But there's an annual trek that the Attorney General, and you know this, Chris, the Attorney General and the...
It sounds pretty wishy-washy to me, Goldilocks. I don't know if you're in the chat. It sounds an awful lot like he's not supporting the discharge petition. It sounds like he's just saying, we're doing it. We already started it. Just trust us. This seems an awful lot like, trust me, bro.
FBI director make to Capitol Hill in front of the Judiciary Committee. We've been working on that. We think we've got dates already scheduled later this summer. Well, they'll be in front of the committee, and I've told everyone, you can ask them. You know how those things go.
Yeah.
Republicans don't have questions for them. Democrats don't have questions for them on this issue and a host of other issues. And so we've already been working on that. And I think that's how it should proceed. And we've, like I said, been working on scheduling this. We think it's going to happen when we as soon as we get back from the August break.
Are you of a mind?
Well, that didn't happen because it's October, so they didn't do it on the. So what happened there, Goldilocks? What happened to the end of the August break? Because we're back now. We came back, then we shut down the government, but you just didn't want to do it. That's what Mike Johnson kept saying too. As soon as we're back from the break, it's the first thing on the list, and then they didn't do it. They just moved. They just kicked the can down the road. How come you guys don't hold them accountable for that? That was their promise. After the after August break, oh, it wasn't our fault. Like we couldn't do it because we were going to break. We didn't want to do it on the last day, so we'll do it as soon as we get back. As soon as they got back, no, we're not doing it.
That the Biden administration did not tell the whole truth about what happened with Jeffrey Epstein because it was an inspector general's report under the Biden administration. It was Biden DOJ that said in 23, they said grace over it basically and said it was a suicide.
Yeah.
It's fine. Do you think that they were not telling the whole truth?
I mean, I don't know. I do believe on lots of things the Biden administration wasn't square with the American people. I also think there could have been, who knows what the president.
It's so crazy to hear him say shit like that. Yeah, the Biden administration lied. Every administration has lied. But like, if you're gonna do that, this is what's frustrating about Jim Jordan. Like, that's a thing to say that's true. But like, you don't work for the president, dude. You work for the American people. Why are you playing whataboutism? Why aren't you calling balls and strikes? This administration clearly, like, they could release it. The reason that this has to be a vote in Congress is because Trump won't release it. Trump won't be honest. Trump said, I've released everything. So if you're going to accuse Biden of not being honest, then you got to do it with Trump too. Biden wasn't even asked. Biden wasn't even getting pressure to do this. Trump's getting pressure to do it. And you guys are giving him a pass? It's weird. It's really weird how Trump gets a pass on everything from you folks.
It's unfortunate, but President Biden, I just didn't think was up to the task. And we all sort of saw that coming. That's been an issue in and of itself. So whether they misled us or not, who knows? I don't know.
Thank you for watching.
I don't know. Where's this thing where Jim Jordan's pushing for the Epstein files? That's 13 minutes. Do we have a shorter one? Let's see this.
DOJ has now turned over the large first batch of Epstein files to the House Oversight Committee, while also releasing the full transcript of their interview with Ghislaine Maxwell. Here's some of what Maxwell had to say.
I actually never saw the president in any type of massage setting. I never witnessed the president in any inappropriate setting.
It's so crazy that that's what they choose to cover. We're going to talk about Epstein, and we're just going to focus on exonerating Trump.
The president was never inappropriate with anybody.
What I know is they didn't really.
By the way, the evidence largely seems to point to Trump not being implicated, at least in like sexual abuse. From everything we know, from everything that's been said, it seems to point in the direction that Donald Trump's not going to be implicated in sexual abuse. Now, they could be lying. They could maybe that's not out. Maybe he very well could be. But the evidence that we know sounds like Trump's not implicated. So now what reason do you have? Now why is Trump threatening people not to release it? Weird, right? Why do you think Republicans are saying let's slow roll it out of the oversight committee? Looks like a cover up to me. What kind of transparency is that? You guys, this has been a topic since the beginning of this year. I think it was like March or something when they said like, oh, we're going to release the Epstein files tomorrow. It's October now. We still don't have them. All it takes is one signature. There's no reason it's not caught up in bureaucracy. It's not like they can't find them. They're just not doing it. Why? It's fine if you want to blame Biden, but for right now, could you guys come back to earth for a second? Can you engage in a conversation that isn't whataboutism? Just explain to me, please, why they're not releasing them. If you say, I'm asking a question from Republicans. Why are Republicans not releasing this? If you say Democrat, if you say Joe Biden, if you say the left, if you say anything about the previous administration, you're muted for at least a minute. Mods take care of it. But I need an answer why Republicans aren't doing something. I understand Democrats could have done it. Joe Biden could have done it. He didn't do it. I don't know why. We're only left to guess. I'm just asking you now, what reason do you think? I've given my reason for Joe Biden. I don't think that Joe Biden ever had any pressure to release it. I doubt he even knew about it. I don't know how much Joe Biden was informed on things. This didn't seem to be something that made sense to him. If he did know about it and didn't release it, my guess is that he was protecting donors. That would be my guess, because there's no evidence that he's in it. So if I'm going to give a sinister reason why Joe Biden didn't release it, I would guess that it would be donors, perhaps Bill and Hillary Clinton. Like, those would be acceptable answers. Now to Donald Trump, we also don't know. I think it's the same reason. But the bigger question is you. The question is, like, for you, I don't care if Bill Clinton's implicated. I don't care if anybody in the DNC is implicated. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. I would love to see them gone. I would like to know that, so I don't support pedophiles. For you guys, it seems like you're afraid that you're going to find out how many pedophiles you've been supporting. That's what it feels like. It feels like you don't want to admit that your party right now is the ones protecting pedophiles, and there's going to be a lot of names on there that you have viewed as heroes. People like Elon Musk, people like Peter Thiel, people who you guys have aligned with and Trump has aligned with. That's what it feels like. But could you give me a better explanation? If you say Democrats or Joe Biden or any shit like that, you're going to get muted. I just want to know, give me a guess why Republicans are covering this up while this video continues.
Release parts of the transcript. They released the whole transcript. And you know, so you can go through the whole thing. And of course, this confirms what we all knew. If the Democrats, if President Trump had done something wrong, you don't think the Democrats would have released that? I mean, it was their Justice Department who handled all this. You don't think the Garland Justice Department?
Do you notice how he's not answering the question? He's doing the same shit all you dipshits are doing. Why not release them? The Democrats, if they really cared, what are the Democrats? The Democrats. Well, 100% of them have signed on to this discharge petition. So why aren't you? Is that how far we've sunk as a country? That the mere fact that the Democrats want something means you don't want it? Just whatever the Democrats want, you're opposed to? So if we want transparency about these billionaires who were funding worldwide trafficking ring, if that's what we want, then you don't want it out there. Are we going to have to start playing the fucking opposite game with you guys? Are we just going to have to pretend that, like, you should cut taxes for billionaires, and then you guys are like, you know what? These billionaires have too much money. You should be like, we should have private health insurance for everybody. No government assistance on health insurance at all. And you just be like, we should do universal health care. Because that's what it feels like. It feels like no matter what we say, you're going to do the opposite. And maybe that's what we should do. Maybe we should just pretend that we side with you so that you guys will disagree with us.
And the Chris Wray FBI would have released information. We knew President Trump didn't do anything wrong here. He said that repeatedly. This transcript is the whole transcript.
We know he didn't do anything wrong. This is like trust me, bro, on steroids. How do you know Trump didn't do anything wrong? Because he said it. Oh, okay, got it. We know. Republicans say no way too much. They use word like irrefutable. We've been talking about this the last week, but like, you guys don't get to use those types of words. You don't know that, bitch. You don't know that. But what we do know about Jim Jordan is he has a history of covering up sexual abusers. This guy, particularly, by the way, all of you guys that are like, VP for 2028, Jim Jordan. Imagine not Republicans, Democrats. Can you imagine if we had somebody like Jim Jordan in Congress who was caught covering up sexual abuse? Can you imagine supporting him and being a fan of him and advocating for him and reposting clips of him? Yeah, this is our guy. Can you imagine that? If this is who they love. I think the problem that you have is so many of your people are sex criminals. RFK, sex criminal. Donald Trump, sex criminal. Matt Gaetz, sex criminal. Jim Jordan, sex criminal. In fact, most of the people high up in your party are sex criminals. Pete Hegseth, sex criminal. Why is it that so many of your people sexually abuse, like all of your heroes, sexually assault people? Or at the very least, I guess Jim Jordan didn't sexually assault somebody. He just covered one up. Why? Why are there so many of them?
Script, and it confirms that.
DOJ has now turned over the.
All right. Well, we didn't find an answer from Jim Jordan. So I guess did Goldilocks leave? I don't see Goldilocks. You just wanted us to play those videos and then you bounced? There was no answer for that. I didn't see a lot of thumbs up. Who knows? All right, guys, we got about 30 minutes left. You can see the remaining balance of the gift gold that's up there in the top left corner. Jen wants me to remind you that we are crowdfunded, and for every day that we don't make our goal, Jen gives me a purple nurple, which sucks. My nipples have been absolutely destroyed, and so maybe that inspires you to not donate. That's fine. I think Jen gets a little pleasure out of it herself. So make your own decisions. But Jen wanted me to remind you of that. What do we have time left? This one, Dre dossier. This was from Marty. Marty put this in our Discord.
So I came across,
and it is a bit conspiratorial, but that's what we're doing for the end of the show today. Because I just mostly want to watch your comments, and I think I'm a little blind to this. I'm not also sure what the Republicans' response is to be. So Republicans, this is one of those times I'm listening to you as we watch this. I'd love to know your thoughts.
some jarring information tonight, and I have to tell someone about it. So I've been keeping tabs on Neuralink a lot lately, Elon Musk's brain chip company, because with all of the 1930s style propaganda coming from the White House as of late, I just have this really bad feeling that Elon Musk might be our Dr. Joseph Mengele. And here's why. First of all, if you haven't already, please go follow me over on Substack, The Dre Dossier. It's free. The link is in my bio. This full video is going to be posted there along with a deeper dive and with all of my sources cited. So please go subscribe. So in July of 2025, this year, Elon Musk announced that Neuralink needs to go from 7 brain implants to about 1,000 implants by the end of 2026. Now, that's about 993 people over the course of, what, 15?
I like I said about. I like that.
15 months now, who would be willing to get an experimental brain surgery. That's like 60 some odd patients a month. And at the rate in which it took him to get 7 done, feels nearly impossible, if you ask me. Now, there are a couple things that have been bothering me, especially about these Neuralink sites, because they have approved through the FDA 2 sites in the United States. One, which is in Phoenix, Arizona, at the Barrow.
I hear you, Diet Pepsi. I'm not a fan of conspiracies. Here's what I've learned about conspiracy theories, is that you should listen. I listen to them now to see if there's anything there. And if somebody's going to put this much effort into posting a conspiracy theory, I'm just going to look at data. I'm not going to look at, like, could this happen? Because almost all conspiracy theories, you can find a way that they could have happened. But this one involves Elon Musk, who I already don't trust. And it also involves dehumanizing people or viewing people as less than. There's a history in this world of people, once they are dehumanized or viewed as less than or less worthy, there's a history in the world and in this country that we do scientific experiments on those types of people. We've done it with prisons. We've done it with slaves. We've done it with internment camps. We've done it with women. We do this all the time. Specifically, I mean, just the history of the way that we have used black women essentially as like test subjects is atrocious. So there is a history with this. I at least think it's worth being aware of, and then decide whether or not it's likely or possible or true.
Neurological Institute, and the other, which is in Miami, Florida, which is at the University of Miami, which has a big neurological brain study program. Both of those cities also have really, really large ICE detention centers very close by. Now, yes, in Miami, they have Alligator Alcatraz, but they also have Chrome Detention Facility, which is like their super large one where a lot of the intake usually goes through. From December of 2024 to February of 2025, there have been 3 deaths.
Thanks, Jen.
Once a month at Chrome Detention Facility.
Oh, yeah, and our own military. Thank you, Wyoming Sunflower. Also, we experimented on our own soldiers. Yeah, that's right.
And all of them had to do with neurological symptoms like brain hemorrhages and seizures and vomiting and the like. Not unlike what a lot of the outcomes of the monkeys that Elon Musk used to operate on looked like. Just for the record. Now, there's a different kind of pattern that's equally concerning in Phoenix, Arizona. So Neuralink operates, like I said, at the Barrow Neurological Institute, and then right nearby there are major ICE detention facilities, Eloy and Florence. Now, the amount of time spent in solitary confinement at these Arizona facilities went from 14 days in 2024, which had been a pattern since like 2021, to 38 days in 2025 as the average. Like, that's a 271% increase. 38 days is more than a month with no witnesses, no oversight, no documentation of what's happening. And all of this...
These are also 2 places in Eloy and Florence. Florence has, I think, the federal prison. I think Eloy's is a state prison. I'm not sure there. These are 2 places like between Tucson and Phoenix where there's nothing there, and they basically built towns around prisons. That's the industry and the history there of the mistreatment of inmates, specifically anybody that's there that is Hispanic, is well documented. It's the state has been sued multiple times. It's not unusual for people in both Eloy and Florence to be mistreated. So this rings at least possible for me.
Just so happens to be going on and increasing right when Neuralink is also trying to desperately scale up their operations so they can stay competitive with other countries. So those patterns have been bothering me for quite some time now, right? Especially with the Alligator Alcatraz now like missing hundreds of detainees that have no record and like all of it. So I decided to dig a little deeper tonight and I went to USA.
Okay, Eloy is the private prison, and I think the federal prison is the one in Florence, I think.
.gov, which is this website where you can search for all of the federal contracts that are made public. So you can search for anything related to, I don't know, the Department of Defense and neurosurgery, for instance. And that's when I noticed something kind of weird happening, because Honolulu kept coming up a lot with DoD contracts and neurological surgery, like over and over and over again. And I'm thinking to myself, why Honolulu? Like, what's going on in Honolulu? I mean, all of them were from the Department of Defense, and they were all for these different neurological services, neurological procedures, neurological surgery practices, and they were all ramping up starting in 2025. And the company that was getting all of these contracts was called NIR LLC, and the work was being performed out of Triple Army Medical Center, which is this really big military hospital in Honolulu. I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, well, maybe this is just normal medical family military care. But when I went to look up NIR LLC to see if I could learn more about them, there was nothing about them online. There's no company website. There's no physician names, nothing on them. I mean, for a medical contractor who's doing so many neurological surgery procedures with federal money, not having so much as a website feels odd. But then, at the very bottom of the Google search, I saw a link to a MapQuest that said NIR, and it had like a little point of where it was. So I clicked the link, and it showed NIR LLC at the location of 888 South King Street in Honolulu. Now, if you were to look up NIR LLC on any other map, nothing comes up. But when you type in 888 South King Street, Honolulu, something does come up. And that something is Straub Medical Center, which is one of Hawaii's largest civilian hospitals that has a major neurology and neurosurgery department. So now I'm really confused, right? Because why is their billing address a commercial office building, but then they're actually operating out of a civilian hospital with a huge neurosurgery center, but then the Department of Defense is paying them for services at a military hospital all on the same island? Like, this feels like a paper trail that's being obfuscated on purpose a little bit. I'm thinking, well, maybe does Neuralink operate out of Honolulu, Hawaii? And I just didn't know about it. And I look it up, and no, Hawaii isn't listed on the official trial site. It's just Miami, Florida, and Phoenix, Arizona, and then Toronto, Canada. I'm thinking to myself, well, just because the FDA doesn't know about it doesn't mean that it's not necessarily happening. So I decided to go on LinkedIn to see if I can find anybody who has Neuralink listed as their current employer and also lives in Honolulu, Hawaii. And that's when I find 2 people. First one is a clinical project manager who works at Neuralink and lives in Honolulu, Hawaii. And it looks like she's been with Neuralink for a few years now. And I looked at her job responsibilities and it said trial site management, implementation of clinical trials, management and oversight of external vendors, negotiating and building relationships with organizations. She manages trial sites and external vendors, but Hawaii isn't an official Neuralink trial site. So what you doing, sis? The other person I found was this guy.
I imagine that could be potentially. Could that be a work from home position? Anybody that's in that, is that something you could do, work from home?
Guy who runs something called Hang 10 Capital, and he lives in Honolulu, Hawaii, and it's a private equity firm that also runs out of Honolulu, Hawaii. And they invest in things like fintech and food startups, but I looked at their portfolio and saw Neuralink listed. All right, so we have some smoking guns in Honolulu. But I'm thinking to myself, okay, so if the thesis here is that something sus is going on with Neuralink and the operation...
what was the name of the, let's see, where are we at here? 611.
Fintech official Neuralink trial, clinical trial. You can find anybody who has this Miami, Florida, doesn't know what's happening. As Neuralink listed Neuralink for a few years now, and I looked at find two people. First one is a clinical project manager.
Clinical project manager. I'll go back to 611.
It looks like management. They just found the thesis here is that something sus is going on with Neuralink and the operation facilities being close to ICE detention centers. Does this fit?
Heather says, yes, you can manage clinical trial sites from home. A lot of us in clinical trials work from home. Okay, so that doesn't necessarily link to Hawaii. Thank you.
That thesis, like, is there an ICE detention facility near these, medical facilities in Honolulu? And oh boy, did I regret asking that question. Apparently, in February of 2025, ICE had signed an agreement to start housing detainees at FDC Honolulu. That's a 992-bed detention center facility. Like, I didn't know.
Thanks, Alberto.
Did anybody else know about this? And then I found an article from July 2025 that was talking about this and was saying that detainees were being transferred to Hawaii from Florida and Arizona detention facilities, the exact two states where Neuralink trials had started. And so I looked up the distance between FDC Honolulu and Straub Medical Center, where NIR LLC actually operates from, apparently. And it's 8 miles, a quick 15-minute drive.
What do you mean we need to find the budget managers? That's who we need to look for? Thank you.
And to make things...
and thanks, KRAR, said straight up real-life Bond villains. And thank you, Lee.
Worse, the same time in February of 2025 when that agreement was being signed between ICE and Honolulu, Elon Musk's Doge was still in the White House. You remember that? And they had apparently, while they were there, had fired 20 FDA employees that month in February. And so I looked up which department they were from, and they were from none other than the Office of Neurological and Physical Medicine Devices.
I do want to say that does kind of make sense, like a little bit. Like if you look at their funding, this is from usaspending.gov, which is everything that Elon Musk was pretending that he found. He actually just used this website. But if you go and you find and you check NIR LLC, you'll see that there was a government contract award in 2023, 7 in 2024. 7 in 2025. So these may have been extended. You can go in and you can look at what those were for. It looks like it was the Department of Defense, and then Defense Health Agency and Department of the Army. So these all appear to be through Department of Defense, which means we'll probably never have transparency. And then you got medical neurology, medical managed healthcare, and medical radiology, which was 0% there just in Hawaii. So it does make sense that if at least these ones here, these new awards that could have been while Elon was there, could have been before that. It could have absolutely nothing to do with this administration. As you can see, fiscal year 2026, they currently don't have any contracts, or anything awarded. So we'll keep an eye on them.
The exact office that oversees Neuralink's clinical trials. Anyone else feeling a little bit queasy, or is that just me? And so I'm looking into this further, and I found that when detainees are transferred to Hawaii, they're apparently often...
Argus said the budget managers receive direction from leadership and prioritization. They have the entire paper trail. Argus, how would I find that? Working for the government blows ass unless your career locked in, which Trump is disrupting but replacing with his personal loyalists. Argus, is there a way, like, is there public information where we could find the budget managers or the paper trail? Let me know in the chat.
going through 5 to 7 different facilities first. Like one detainee was arrested in Florida in May and then went through 2 other facilities, then to Louisiana, then Arizona, and then some California facilities, and then landed in Hawaii. He wasn't even served with a charging document until June. That's a month of completely unaccounted time. Just think about it. Not only is there minimal oversight during that month, but then by the time that they get to Hawaii, they're 4,500 miles away from anyone. That's complete isolation. And then if they complain after a procedure is over, they can just be deported and nobody would even know about it. That's exactly what happened at Irwin County Detention Center in Georgia.
Yeah, I know it's called public records, but like it's not everything can be public records, and especially dealing with the Department of Defense, I don't know if we can find that. I also am just learning about these positions, so this is not something I have any expertise at all. I know as much as Argus has told me so far, so I apologize if I sound like an idiot right now.
Where women were reported as having unauthorized gynecological procedures and then were deported within days if they complained. Oh, and I forgot to mention that in April of 2025, acting ICE director Todd Lyons had given a presentation at the Border Security Expo in Phoenix, and he had specifically stated that they had been working with Elon Musk's Doge frequently. That just doesn't make me feel any better either. So look, either I'm seeing patterns that just aren't there, or we're watching something horrifying happen in real time. I mean, these are people who can't speak out, who can't sue, who can't even call their families. I mean, these people have moved through multiple facilities with no documentation and ended up moving 4,500 miles away from anybody who could do anything to help them. And if they wake up one day with scars that they don't remember getting, who is going to believe them? I need people talking about this, journalists who are in positions of power who can investigate NIR, LLC, and lawyers who are asking about these transfers to come forward and speak publicly about it, and someone with power demanding these answers, because I don't know what to do. Because if I'm
That's the end. I don't know how conspiratorial this is. I do think it's good information. I think it's something to be aware of. I think that it's plausible. I don't think that she's making necessarily any claim there that something happened, but I think it's plausible. I think, I mean, if you know what our government has done historically, this should be no surprise. And like this administration specifically, they do not value human life. They don't value the Constitution. They don't give a fuck about rights. The due process means nothing to them, and their constituents also don't care. I saw today. I was just reading tweets, and it was about the extrajudicial killings of all of these people, all these boats, and you just see Republicans in there like, yeah, yay, let's do it. And then they're talking about like the regime change war that we're about to do in Venezuela, and they're like, yeah, that's good. We should get them out of there. Like, you guys went from no new wars, we love Tulsi, to like, fuck Tulsi. Nobody ever sees Tulsi anymore, and we're doing regime change wars. Lisa said, appreciate all you do. Help me with the gift goal. Have you researched who bought Dominion voting machines? We covered it one day. I haven't followed up. It's probably a good idea to go back and follow up and see if there's any new developments there. We did cover it, though, maybe last week sometime, I think. And this. There we go. All right, we probably have time for it's 1:23. We got time for one more story. Then we'll get out of here. Guys, we have time for one more, maybe 10, 15 more minutes. If anybody can help us knock out that goal, that'd be great. If not, stay here. I appreciate you guys. You've been great today. Even the Republicans have been like tolerable today, and I appreciate those Republicans that do show up every day and push back. I think that's important. I would get really annoyed if we were in an echo chamber. I want to get here. Here's Lindsey Graham. We'll do this last one with Margaret Brennan, who's been getting everybody on Face the Nation. And we're going to start talking about regime change, and especially people like Lindsey Graham. Nobody is able to completely 180 their position and pretend they didn't 180 their position better than Lindsey Graham. And nobody is a bigger fan of extrajudicial killing, just indiscriminate murdering of people outside of our country than Lindsey Graham. He's the greatest cheerleader of regime change war to ever exist. And so naturally, Margaret Brennan brought him in for Face the Nation to talk about it.
Back to Face the Nation. Senator,
thank you. Good morning.
On Friday, Defense
Science Politically said you can't get a breakdown of DOW budget without a FOIA. All right, well, maybe we submit a FOIA.
Secretary Hegseth ordered
Thanks,
the
Sarah.
deployment of the Navy's most advanced aircraft carrier, the Gerald Ford, to Latin America. President Trump was asked if he planned to ask Congress for a declaration of war. Take a listen.
I don't think we're going to necessarily ask for a declaration of war. I think we're just going to kill people that are bringing drugs into our country.
None of those people were bringing drugs into our country. Nobody. None of their boats could have reached our country. They have absolutely no evidence that any of these people were bringing drugs into our country. In fact, I've yet to see evidence that they had drugs. I've seen boats that look like they probably were covering something up. I saw a video today of the Coast Guard detaining some people, looked like they had drugs. I don't doubt that some of those boats had drugs. I do have doubts that some of them did. Some of them look like it was just full of people. But none of those boats were going to make it to the United States. They have absolutely no evidence of that. And it's not like they've shown